Okay, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, we will continue our video lectures on machine learning for image processing. So in this lecture, we will essentially discuss on the some of the mathematics related to the concepts that we discuss later. I will briefly introduce what are all the mathematical tools or the mathematical basics that are required. So I will give you some brief idea on where are they required, okay, which are they required through small discussion, and followed by we will have a discussion on the mathematics essentially that are required. Okay, I'm sharing the screen. Hope you are able to see the slides.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay. So we will move on to the discussion of math needed. But before that, what do you think that are the tools and techniques from mathematics, okay, that are required to understand the concepts of this machine learning? So as I said, the essential idea of the machine learning are the classifiers are given a set of features, okay, from the images. We would like to classify them in two different categories. This is one primary objective. Okay, we will have a some other complementary objectives and other auxiliary objectives to be discussed, but this is one of the primary objective. Okay, given this, I would like I wait a minute now or to what you people think on the mathematical concepts that are needed. Okay, to understand this.
Calculus,
Right.
statistics, probability,
Okay.
linear algebra.
Okay, fine. Very good. So anyway, since I mentioned before, you have mentioned the same names, but where are they mentioned also, where are they needed also, we'll see. See, first of all, I just want to, let us take the same example as fish classification. Okay. I want to classify into two different categories here. Okay, the fishes. So what did we discuss in the last class? What kind of features do we extract? Can one of you tell? Can one of you quickly tell what kind of features do we extract for doing this classification?
Can
Weight
extract
was one of the features.
corners, orientation,
Okay, orientation. Orientation is a feature that we consider, or the pre-processing step that we use.
as part of pre.
Right. So I am now discussing on the feature extraction stage.
We can weight. It can be one of the feature.
Texture.
Okay, texture, fine.
Length.
Somebody else is telling something.
Length of the fish.
Right, length of the fish. Okay.
Weight of the fish.
Weight of the fish, okay, and so on. Okay, so assume that I have extracted some features. I am considering only a simple classification task. Okay, it's a fish classification. Later I may discuss on, say, face detection, face recognition. Okay, also on, say, many other classifications, handwritten digit classification, handwritten character recognition. Okay, these are all the tasks as we discussed in the examples. Okay, iris recognition. These are all the classification. This all can be posed as directly a classification task. However, there are other tasks like segmentation, detection, object detection, okay, and tracking. Okay, they also can be posed as classification tasks, but they are slightly of slightly different nature. So we'll start with this classification. Okay, fine. So now you said you have given a couple of features. So I have assume that I have a okay, I have a vector of features with me. Okay, now given these vector of features, or even say I start with single feature, okay, length feature. Assume that I just take the length feature or some feature and I would like to classify. Okay, so when I do that, one problem that usually comes in practical applications is which feature to take. Should I take length feature, width feature, or here, for example, I want to classify bikes and non-bikes. This is the example here. So should I take one pixel as one feature? Say, for example, can I take any pixel that is there at this location as a feature? Do you think is that a good feature? Or which is a good feature? That is the question that we have now. What do you people suggest? Again, a quick answer is welcome.
Not a good feature, sir.
Huh?
Single pixel might not be a good feature to.
Single feature, if I take, for example, single pixel, if I take, okay, just based on black, okay, is this pixel is black or say some other color? If I just classify into bikes and cars, okay, is that a good strategy? It's not at all a good strategy. So single feature or even couple of pixels, if I take, do you think is that good enough? Especially when I consider images, okay, couple of pictures, even say couple of intensity values here and there. If I take to classify fish, is that a good strategy?
No.
No. So most of the cases, the features are not straightforward. Okay. And see in this, say if in the case of cars and bikes classification, what may be good features?
Number of tires.
Identify the number of tires, or it has a handle or not.
Okay. Okay. So whether we have a handle or not, number of wheels and so on. So then if I consider wheels and handlebars as features, and then count how many wheels are there, how many handlebars are there, okay, in a given image, that may easily cluster the bikes and the, say, bikes and the cars. Is that not? Whereas,
But it can
in
also include the bicycles then?
yeah, it may
What
also
if we
include
consider the feature of silencer? Like in car, silencer is not visible from outside.
Right, right. So it's again, it is a parameter, as I said. What I'm trying to highlight here is pixel intensities alone or may not be, or in fact, many of the times not a good features. Okay, you may need to go for different other features. So we directly previously jumped on to the length, width, and so on. Okay, but in general, when we have an image processing problem, people would like to see with first whether the image pixel features are they good enough. Okay, in most of the cases, pure pixels may not be good features. Okay, so considering say either handlebars or even silencer or whatever, okay, these may be based on the problem at hand. You need to figure out which are good features. Okay, so this one, see, feature selection is one area, okay, where people have spent considerable time, but after deep learning, okay, the same problem is still persisting but in a slightly different way. Okay, so we'll see that later. So now we will as we this already we have discussed, in given a different applications like image, speech, and text, we have different feature extraction states, but the classification is same. So now the question is, assume that I have extracted some feature. Okay, so I extracted here the length feature, okay, for classifying the features. Now given this length feature, in the previous class, we have asked a question on how do we classify. Okay, just taking the length features, fishes into two categories. Can one of you tell the idea on how do we classify? Say, assume that I have 100 fishes of sea bass, 100 fishes of Solomon. Okay, two categories. I just have taken measured their lengths. Okay, and then want to classify. Okay, so how should I go about? That's my question.
So first we should decide a threshold length.
Okay, so the idea is decide on the threshold length. So the question is, how do I decide on the threshold length?
We can take average, sir. We can take average of the length.
Okay, you can take average of the class 1 fishes lengths, okay, class 2 fishes lengths, and then take the threshold in between the averages. Okay, something like that. So you are giving some idea, but see, I have 100 fishes at my hand or 100 samples at my hand of class 1, 100 samples of class 2. Finally, if I use just a point estimate for class 1, point estimate for class 2, is it a good estimate? Is it a good method?
Using a decision boundary.
Okay, fine. But how do I apply decision boundary is the question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you also said that if we set threshold, then it will there will be no use of machine learning algorithms.
There
so
is
like
no...
so there will be no use of machine learning then, sir. Like
right. That's also correct. There is like we are not using any much learning there. We are just doing the statistical averaging and finding out. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So then what should I do? Hello, is... Hello, is this resumed back?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So what should we do now in such situations? We have enough lengths, okay, enough samples with us, and we want to make use of all of them, and also make use of some learning as well, and want to come up with a nice decision boundary or whatever you call. Okay, but some using this feature, I want to put the samples into class 1 and class 2.
First, we need to analyze the data also, like we plotted.
Okay, so tell actually how to analyze. Give some idea. We may not do all the things now, just in a few minutes, but so this is one idea. So somebody has pointed out distribution. Distribution of what and what? See, I have class 1 samples, okay, with me. I have class 2 samples lengths with me. Given this class 1 lengths and class 2 lengths, what distribution should I find?
So there will be a particular length at which the number of samples of salmon will be peaking, and
right,
at a particular length at which the number of samples of sea bass will be peaking, and there will be a length in between at which both will be coming to a critically down value. And
Okay,
we
fine.
should try to find that critical down value and then.
Okay, fine, good. So essentially to do that, what is the plot or what is the say distribution I have to get with me?
We
So
can
what
have
is the x-axis and what is y-axis to get that?
we can have histograms, sir.
Yeah, it's a
Frequency.
histogram essentially. So length being on the x-axis. Okay. So the feature that I measure being on the x-axis, the count of number of fishes having that feature value being in the y-axis. Okay. So you see here, the length of 4 is this much. Okay. Length of 2 is this much. Okay. For the Solomon fish. Okay. And so on. Okay. So if you see here, so during this these lengths, Solomon fish has higher count. During these lengths, sea bass fish has higher count. Okay, so somewhat reasonably well, you're able to see that, okay, Solomon fishes are more distributed towards the smaller lengths. Sea bass fishes are more distributed towards the larger length. So this is referred to as histogram. Okay, so a feature versus the count. But count is a see based on the number of fishes I may have, the count keeps varying. Okay, I may have today 100 fishes with me of class 1, class 2. Tomorrow I may have say faces of thousands of persons, okay, with me. Or I may have actually, so in some other scenario, blood cells of millions, okay, or even thousands with me. So in each case, the count keep varying. So I want to have a better normalized count on the y-axis. So what should we do now? If you want to get a better normalized count on the y-axis, what should be done now? Is there any idea?
Percentage of total value we can take.
Yeah, percentage of total value I can take. But the question here is, see this plot wherever, see what is this plot, black plot? Is that only class 1 samples or class 2 plus class 1 samples together?
Just class 1.
Okay, what do you suggest? Should I make the distribution of class 1 samples separately, class 2 samples separately, or together can I make a distribution of samples with length?
Together.
Together should I make? So if I make together, the problem is, what is my problem? What is my objective?
So what I suggest is that at a particular length, we should find out how many total samples are there and how many, what percentage of that sample is salmon and what percentage is sea bass. So that will be a prediction percentage that with that much accuracy we can predict that at this particular length, this fish should be there.
Okay, yeah.
Classical.
I think it's fine. So this plot essentially has that as well, that information as well. So if you are able to plot with class 1 samples separately, class 2 samples separately, that indicates that even total samples at that fixed length or the feature is available. Okay. However, if you plot together as a single plot, you will not be able to get the picture of what class 1 samples fraction at that location versus class 2 samples, right? So for that matter, what should we do? We should have a distribution of samples of class 1, class 2 separately. Is that understood or not? Is this clear?
Can you repeat that? Like we didn't get it.
Yeah. So what we see, the question is, should we have the class 1, class 2 samples together and plot the distribution of class 1 and class 2 samples together with respect to a particular lens? Then I will not get two plots here. Okay, one black, one red will not come. Okay, single plot, some other color probably can come green. Okay, so whereas if I plot separately the class 1 samples distribution and class 2 samples distribution, okay, then I will get these two plots, distribution of class 1 samples, class 2 samples. The question I asked is, should we go for both together, okay, as a single plot, or both independently? Class 1 samples distribution should I get independently and class 2 samples independently and have them both separately? That was the question asked. So is there any doubt in that among which one should we go for? Yeah, can some of you answer quickly? Which one should we go for?
Separate.
Have a separate.
Yeah. Because Why we need separate is we can then get the fraction as like Pranjal has said of class 1 samples compared to class 2 at a given length, or we also can know how much is the distribution of class 1 samples at a given length and class 2 samples at a given length. Okay. Now the question I asked is, what should be the normalization factor? Okay, to make this so independent of the number of samples at my hand. I may have sometimes 100 samples, I may have some 1000 samples or 20 samples. Okay, it keep changing, and class 1, class 2 samples also may be changing. So what should be the normalization? In what way should I normalize?
Percentage.
Yeah, that's fine. Percentage fine. Give me more explicit steps.
Divided
Okay,
by
percentage
count.
important what?
By
the sum of both class 1 and class 2 samples.
Right. If I take the sum of both class 1 and class 2 samples, see, class 1 samples may be 50, class 2 samples may be 200. Okay, in that case, what will happen? Is my distribution fair? Okay, that means this will anyway go down. Irrespective of what class 2 samples frequencies or count is at that length.
We'll have to have some kind of weights attached to them. So we'll have a weighted average kind of thing.
Okay. Is there no other simpler way?
Divided by individual class count.
Yeah, divided by specific class count. That will enable me to find out, okay, the percentage of say, or the frequency of class 1 samples at a given length. Okay, and as well as frequency of class 2 samples at a given length. Frequency is normalized to what? This frequency is normalized to what is the highest value? Yeah, 1. Normalized to 1. Okay, so if you count sum all the frequencies, okay, what essentially you will get will be 1 for that class. Okay, similarly for other class. Now I want to bring in a little bit of mathematical notations. Okay, so this frequency, can you tie with what? See, so this frequency of class 1 samples, I am just now ignoring class 2 because see, sometime I may have only 2 classes, I may have even more classes, 3 classes, 5 classes and so on. Okay, I am just considering a single class now. In a single class, I take, okay, the number of samples at a given length. Okay, I do that for all the lengths or all the feature values, possible feature values, and normalize with respect to the total count of that particular class samples. Okay, total number of that particular class samples, not all class samples. Okay, and I will get a normalized count or a frequency of that class for a given feature value. Okay, so this I want to associate with a mathematical notation. What mathematical term do you think is maybe helpful here? You might have studied some mathematics before. So to which mathematical notation or term do you think I can associate this with?
So PDF.
Okay, very good. PDF of what?
No, like a number of counts, frequency.
Okay, that's all fine. PDF of class 1 samples. Okay, given that, see, that means the PDF. So I want explicit mathematical notation. So P of, okay, I just want to write something. Okay, PDF usually will be there for, okay, random variables. So we will study some details about random variables. We also study some properties of probability density functions, okay, and probability distribution functions, okay, because that's essential to model this kind of scenarios. Okay, when we have large number of samples or statistically varying samples, okay, each time when we perform the classification task or any learning task. Okay, so we will study that. I will explicitly put the mathematical terms later, but there is a random variable that is necessary. What do you think may be the random variable with whose PDF I may be talking about? So if anyone can guess, please guess. Otherwise, we'll move on.
So your random variable will be counts.
No. Random variable, see, random variable is not count. The random variable at which I measure the PDF is the feature value, that is length. The probability of it will be count or the frequency. Okay, so P of X, that's what I will see, where X is a feature value. Okay, and P of X is the count or the frequency, normalized count. Okay, that is frequency. But I'm measuring only for a given class. So I say that P of X given omega 1, because I can't say that count for all the class frequency for every class sample, all samples. Only among the class 1 samples, what is the frequency at a given feature value or a random variable X? Okay, is this clear? Anyway, I will discuss this in more detail because it's very important. Okay, this forms the basic for all the statistical pattern recognition methods. Okay, and the Bayesian classification is mostly based on this. Okay, how do we model the class sample distributions? Okay, if I give you some samples, make some measurements, how do I model them probabilistically? Using these probabilistic models or the distributions, what do I do? Okay, how do I come up with the decision boundary? Now, next question, let us come to this. So where should I put the decision boundary? I have the PD, like the class frequencies like this. Okay, where do you suggest me to put the decision boundary? So somebody has put here, fine, but is that a good decision boundary? I may have even here, okay, I may have somewhere else. Oh, so what do you suggest? Which is a good decision boundary? Any suggestions?
So which give most number of correct answers?
Okay, fine, but the data set is only with you. So you have taken some small data set and some data set, and with which you say that okay, most of them are doing better. And tomorrow I will bring in big data set. It may not work there. Then what do we do? Even in this small data set, okay, you can't see all the samples and then decide, right? Which of them all work for very good for this data set is not the very one. So you should also see, you may have 100 samples now. Tomorrow I may give another 100 samples. Okay. And then again ask the same question. Every time you cannot do the same work, rework. Okay. So you should have a mathematically guided technique for doing it. Okay. So we will see that. So how do we essentially do it? So how do we model this mathematically, little more elegantly? And then how do we use those mathematics to put these decision boundaries? Okay. But assume that for now, we see just wherever we reasonably get the class 1 samples and class 2 samples reasonably well classified, we'll put it there. Okay. But now you see that there are many misclassified samples. Okay. Through this measurement length. Okay. Feature length. If I put a histogram, then what do you suggest me to improve this overall classification strategy? Okay, the technique we will see
Cost
later.
function.
Okay, we need a cost function essentially. Okay, that is get minimized to put the decision boundary. Okay, cost function means what? The error that if I put a decision boundary here, how many misclassified samples of class 1 will be there and how many misclassified samples of class 2 there. Okay, that will constitute me the error. That will be mathematically quantified and set as a cost function. Okay, so that's what I do in cost function. Okay, so that I will do, and that I will use for putting the decision boundary. Okay, so in each of the cases, the quantifying the misclassified samples or the errors is needed. Okay, and then minimizing that error is essential to put a decision boundary or to design a classifier. So essentially what are needed? First, understanding of random variables. Okay, and then understanding of probability distribution, some of the distribution functions, well-known distribution functions to model. Okay, and then understanding of the formulation of cost functions. Assume that using these random variables, I may formulate a cost function f of x. Once I get the cost function or error function, what do I do with this error function to make my objective?
We'll try to minimize it, then put a
Yeah, we
decision
try
boundary
to
according
minimize
to it.
in many of the cases. If it is a object like if that's a score function, then I will try to maximize. Otherwise, if it is an error function, okay, or a cost function, I try to minimize. Okay, so I need to understand a little bit on the optimization front. Okay, how to minimize and maximize. Okay, fine. So these are all the techniques that are needed for time being. And then the question now is the next question I asked is not yet answered. So for this measured feature, I'm not able to get very good accuracies, irrespective of where I put the decision boundary. I can put anywhere, even irrespective of where I put, still there are very good false positives, a very high number of false positives. What should I do in such case?
So we can increase the number of features.
Features.
Very good. So, but I don't want to increase more number of features straight away. I just want to experiment with one feature a little more. Then what should I do?
You have to change your decision rule.
Remove the samples.
Huh?
Remove the samples of.
No, how do I remove the samples? Samples are to be classified finally.
Choose another feature.
Okay. So simpler solution is try to choose another feature which may be better for this application. Okay. So here assume that we have chosen another feature like lightness. Okay. This lightness is, as you can see, it's relatively better compared to length in classifying this class 1 and class 2. Fine. These fishes. So there are less number of misclassified samples. So as I said, feature selection also plays an important role. Okay. Still in many of the situations or many of the tasks, it is very important. It is dealt in different ways, but it's still important. Okay. So now even with this feature, I have reasonably good number of misclassified samples. Then what should we do? Then the suggestion is, with one feature, whatever I do best, if I am not able to do more than this, then what do I do? I will move on to more number of features. Okay. This is the scenario with more number of features. So now I have taken lightness and width. And what are these samples? What is this sample here? What is this red dot? And what is this black dot? Can one of you quickly comment?
Type of fish. One of them is salmon, otherwise sea bass.
Right. So there are two different class of fishes. And see, if I give you this, if I give you red dot, this red dot, what can I say about this red dot? I just want to tell the whole little more details about this red dot.
One example.
You can tell the light.
Example, very good. And what else? One example. Other than one example, what else can you tell?
You can tell the
lightness, its width.
Sample.
What is that?
The lightness and width of that particular fish.
Right. So you can tell about lightness and width of that particular fish. What is the lightness? Lightness is about 9 units. Okay. And the width is about 20 units in the units that are measured. Okay. So like that, if I give you a particular sample, you will be able to tell in this plot, this is referred to as scatter plot. Okay. In this scatter plot, if I give you the scatter plot, you can tell, okay, what are the features of that sample and how many samples are there of class 1, class 2 and so on. Okay. It tells all about it. Okay. And then it also, now given this, previously we have one feature, only one feature value, we have a probability density function, okay, of P of X, one variable. Now this probability density function of how many variables? Is this of how many variables? Two variables, P of X1 comma X2. Okay. And further, okay, optimization also, whichever I want to do is with vector variable. Okay, not with scalar variable. See, if I want to do differentiation, not with say dou by dou x or d by dx, I need to do d by dx1, d by dx2, both are involved. So vector differentiations, okay, vector calculus is also of good importance. Okay, we should understand how to handle vectors. Now in optimization, when we frame, there will be matrices, obviously, the weights, etc. Okay, or how to put the things. So vectors, matrices, and then differentiation of vectors and matrices. And properties of these matrices, okay, is also important to make the things easier. So this all linear algebra, understanding the vectors. Okay, we using the vectors, what vectors and matrices, what all we can do. Okay, and then differentiation of them. So that is vector calculus. Okay, little bit of all these things are very much essential. Okay, so you got the point. So now the question is, see, is this still classifying well? Can we still improve this decision boundary? can we improve still with the two features alone? Okay, can we still improve the decision rule or decision boundary? Any thoughts on
Yes.
it? Yeah, any thoughts?
This is a we can use a two-dimensional curve.
Non-
I mean, the
non-linear,
line you can use a curve, non-linear curve.
Right. So we can move on to non-linear decision boundary. Fine, very good. So assume that this is the non-linear decision boundary. Do you think is this reasonably good decision boundary?
No.
No, sir.
Huh?
No, sir. No, sir.
Overfitting is there.
Overfitting is there. Okay, somebody is telling. So overfitting means what? So it is that this is good only for this training data. But we usually want any of the classifier, any of the method. Okay, we will be emphasizing that it will be applied in different scenarios, and generality of great importance is of great importance. So you need to have a general enough decision boundary, not very adapted to that particular data or overly fit to that particular data. So to avoid overfitting or overly fitting to that particular data, we don't want to have accomplished 100% of accuracy on this data and probably even 50 or less accuracy on other data. Okay, so they're general enough. So what do you suggest now between these two?
Allow some
Previous one was better. Like it is just trying
Previous-
to trace out all the
Yeah,
points. Non-linear one is trying to trace out all the points for this data.
Right.
It's
So
not
is
very
there a
generic in
compromise
nature.
between the two?
Yes, sir. We need to allow some misclassifications.
Okay, that's
to
also
get
fine.
better.
But still, in terms of the decision boundary, do you suggest, is there a like compromise between the two? These are two extremes. Okay, between these two, what may come? Yeah, parabolic or say polynomial of slightly higher degree. Okay, so this all has to come naturally from the design. That in the sense that if we probabilistic model class 1, class 2 samples, okay, formulate a error function. Okay, when if I take this decision, what is the associated misclassification and what is the associated error? Okay, that if that is quantified, if that is minimized, what I will be getting essentially is a solution. That solution automatically gives us a general decision boundary based on how we formulate the cost function and minimize. Is that fine? So in the process, you need to understand all these concepts of linear algebra, vector calculus, okay, matrices, and anyway, linear algebra means matrices, vectors, and their operations, okay, and properties. Vector calculus, differentiating with respect to matrix, differentiating with respect to vectors, and so on. Okay, and then because differentiation also forms a very important role, because most of the machine learning or even the image processing and computer vision tasks are posed as minimization and maximization problems. Okay, most of the time minimization problems. Okay, so differentiation also plays a very important role, and different optimization techniques, in fact, also form a very important role. So if you want to get more grounds onto this area, even optimization is very important. Okay, and then probabilities, random variables, okay, and using those random variables with the distributions and so on, okay, modeling, all these are important. So we will discuss these techniques one after the other. Okay, so this we have, yeah, any questions so far?
Yes, sir. Small question about the decision boundary.
Right.
Actually, instead of using a decision boundary, can we have, because one feature was better than the other feature, can we have some weightage associated to one feature and less weightage associated to other feature?
Right. It can be there. And it's, in fact, while designing this cost function, okay, which gives this decision boundary, you can incorporate that. So that naturally you're giving more importance to one feature and less importance to another feature. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So as I said, decision boundary is the final result. Okay, how you get this decision boundary, you can give more importance to width, less importance to lightness, and so on. You can all incorporate in the cost function.
Yes.
Yeah, fine, good. So any other questions around? Okay, so let's move on then. So these are, as I said, these are all the discussions we will have. And see, all the classification techniques, in fact, need in most of the times a combination of these techniques, these basics, math basics. Okay, so but some of the techniques more elegantly need linear algebra concepts and optimization. Some need more probability random variables and optimization. Okay, and linear algebra of small amount. So anyway, you are all have connected with Google Classroom page, and you are able to access, I hope. So if still have any issue in that, let me know, and let us also know, let TS also know it. Hope you're all connected to it, right? So you're all able to access that, right? Even the video lectures, I hope you are able to see, and so on. Recorded video lectures. Okay. So, and as I said, anyway, we will be giving 4 to 5 written assignments and 4 to 5 programming assignments, and these are all the TAs. I will pass on this information to you, okay, in slides, through slides. So these are all the references. See, Pattern Classification by Duda and Hart. This is a very classical book which brings more details on the statistical pattern recognition. Okay, so I will be discussing some contents of statistical pattern recognition. So because I think I see very nice intuition and elegance in doing that. So you will get better understanding of what things are happening or how things are developing. Okay, essentially developed. And then I will move on to the neural networks and other aspects. Okay, so when I move on to the deep learning aspects, this deep learning book by Ian Goodfellow is good. But I think most of the times I will be referring to some video lectures, okay, of FIFI team and so on. Neural networks and all also can be referred from this book. Also, there are other auxiliary references. This has good examples, solved examples. So if somebody are able to get this, I think I'm not very sure whether soft copy is available or not. If you're able to get this, there are some good solved examples, which some extensions of this I will be discussing in some classes. And anyway, you are familiar with Andrew Ng video lectures and FIFI video lectures from Stanford. So these are good references. And there are plenty of data sets on image processing and computer vision tasks. Okay, so which will be of great help. So to when you do your mini projects, okay, and so on. So, so now we can move on to the discussion on math. So before that, if you have any specific questions, you can bring in. No other questions? So I'm moving out from this laptop and transferring myself to iPad.